You're listening to a download from the outdoorstation.co.uk.
Number 312.
Well, good morning, listeners, and welcome to the Cairngorms. I'm trying to work out where I was then for a second. The Cairngorms. It's October the... Gosh, I've only been up here a day and I've lost the date already. October the 2nd, I think. Anyway, it's Sunday, beginning of October 2010, and I've joined Lee Wells, a mate of mine from TGO, which I've mentioned before, for a week's trip up in the Cairngorms, basically Aviemore to Blair Atholl and back. And you find me now, first thing in Sunday morning, making Sean's breakfast. Now, Sean was an young American chap that we met on the TGO last year, 2009, and he'd got this idea for breakfast, which actually I've used a few times since, and it's very good. Muesli, we normally have muesli, and mix it with milk powder before we come away, but it's always a bit bleh. I'm not a great fan of mueslis. Anyway, he suggested, or he said that what he does is actually mix some milk, some chocolate drink with muesli, and then add water, and it tastes completely different. And he's absolutely right. So I've got, what have I got tonight? I've got Mint Madness this morning, mixed with my muesli. So we'll see what that turns out like. And then I've got some of this Kenco instant coffee, which is going in my mug, and as you can probably hear, the gas cooker is boiling up the stream, which is right in front of the tent here. The pitch that we're currently in, we left. Oh, it's boiling already. Blimey, that stove's good. Let's let that into a rolling boil for a second. This is stream water. Where we actually are is just past the Cairngorm footbridge. If you go about a kilometre past there, right, just turn that off. If you go past a kilometre past the Cairngorm footbridge, there's some the path that takes you up to the Glen Bruar. You all of a sudden just get to this wide opening on a bend in the stream, or the river as the case may be, and there's some wonderful pitches here, and I've come across, as I've walked past, a few people in this area a few times camping here and always fancied it. And anyway, we made it last night just as the rain started to come down, and yeah, pitched up really, so we've had a good 10-12 hours listening to the rain and doing what you do and passing the time. And it's now just what time is it, 7:30, and as you can hear, having a brew, having some breakfast, getting ourselves together, and heading, well, we're going to head over the Cairngorm Plateau to Glen Feshie today. Lee's in charge of the route and the map, and we've got a choice. We can either go up the Glen Bruar a bit and then bear right over Blair Atholl, I think it is, or we can cut back down to the Cairngorm footbridge and go up Glen Feshie. And I think we're going to go up the Glen, because I've never been that way before, and apparently it's a beautiful walk. And you get up to the loch there, probably have some lunch at the loch, and then there's that gut-busting even, butt-gusting, yeah, it could be, gut-busting climb to the top of the plateau, and then a bit of compass work to pick up the right path across the plateau and back down into Glen Feshie. But of course the bridge is out at Glen Feshie now, so we also then have to make a decision about if we're going to camp high, camp low, and if we're going to wade the stream, which could be a river, or it is actually a river, but it usually is fairly fast flowing but shallow, or find the bridge, which I think is another couple of kilometres further south. So it's lots of excitement, lots of things to chat about. Certainly using some new equipment on this trip, and giving it a good week's bash. We've got the Power Lizard tent, which we'll certainly be talking about. I've got a new Go Systems Fly TI stove, which is performing remarkably quickly. Loads of things, Neo Airs and jackets and tops and that sort of stuff. But anyway, I'm going to do that as we go along, trying to add a little bit of colour and description of where we are. I'm about 2 metres away from the stream river. It's about 8 metres wide, fairly fast flowing, blooming cold, and it's a beautiful sort of overcast morning, really. Grey cloud, but it looks like it might brighten up today. So anyway, everybody that's been to Scotland know what it's like. It could be raining 100 yards away from you and glorious sunshine somewhere else. So that's Scotland for you. So anyway, more from me later, and I'm going to have my breakfast. Well, the morning's moved on, and we finally left what was a very pleasant camping spot last night by the side of that river. And it's 9 o'clock, 9:30 now, and we're making our way on the path that Lee's going to tell us about where we're going today, as I'm following him blindly.
We're heading up to Glen Enoch and should finish at Loch Enoch at about lunchtime, I hope. And then probably heading over the top to Feshie, hopefully.
So there's only one catch today, and there's, having just checked the map, we've got to climb 500 metres in half a kilometre virtually, haven't we?
That's right, yeah. I think we're fit enough, do you?
Well, that might take us till, if it's lunchtime at the bottom, supper time at the top, I suppose. Could do. But yeah, it's a bit of a steep climb, I seem to remember. I've seen it from the top, but I've never actually attempted it. But we'll see how we get on that score. But we're all playing with new toys this year. As I say, I've got the Power Lizard, which is doing the job nicely. Plenty of space in there. We were comparing it this morning to your Acto. What did you think?
Yeah, I was quite impressed with it. A bit more room and a little more head height than the Acto. Yeah, I was quite impressed, especially for the weight as well.
Yeah, it's a bit more, certainly a bit more, I think this wind's probably going to batter the microphone, but yeah, a bit more space inside. Well, I'm going to shut down now because, as you can gather, the wind's picked up in the rain, and we'll pick up a bit later on and probably explain a bit more about some of the views. But the cloud's fairly low and it's a dull grey, so looks like we're in for a bit of rain today, although the forecast was supposed to be a bit brighter. And we've just seen another couple heading up towards the Larry Grew as we came past, and my goodness me, weren't they carrying a load?
They certainly was, yeah. Rather him than me.
Yes, yeah, my word. So we're quite happy to be carrying what we're carrying today. And well, one thing I didn't mention, actually, my pack's about 9k. What's yours, Lee? Have you weighed it?
I think it's about 8.
Yeah, you cheeky bugger. You're still. Is it the Mariposa?
The Mariposa plus, yeah.
Yeah. So it's lasted okay then.
Yeah, no problems at all. Yeah, still going strong.
Is this the one I stitched together for you at?
The one we stitched together. Yes.
On that last trip.
Yeah, but it's made Cape last trip, and I think 3 TGO challenges, and it's still fine. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Good. Okay. Well, we'll catch up with everybody a bit later on. Oh, it's 12:30 now, and we've made it to the loch as Lee was predicting in time for lunch, which has been a cold pasty for me, and I think Lee's picked up a sandwich at the supermarket yesterday. As you can probably tell from what you're hearing, the weather is it's very cold actually. The wind chill factor must be down to the sort of 1, 2, 3 degrees. My hands are very, very cold, although they're still uncovered, but they are red. And we're sitting just at the exit of Loch Enoch at the moment, and looking at a very cold river which must be about 6-7 metres wide, which we've now got to cross, which obviously means wading it. So we thought we'd fortify ourselves first with some food before we do that, and then once we're across there and working our way around the edge of the loch, the path does do this very steep 500 metre climb in 500 metres, but according to the map it's only marked halfway. I think you have to make the rest up yourself as you get up there. Sadly, in light of the weather, the cloud base has dropped as well and is coming in, and the path as it goes up to the Belach is now in cloud. So it's one of those occasions where it's like we're going to be working on compass and GPS, I'm sure, when we get to the top, but it's going to be a bit of a hard climb. But at least we've got to look on the bright side. The amount of heat we'll generate will probably hopefully dry ourselves out. This river's at least knee deep, and as I say, very, very cold indeed. So It's one to fortify ourselves for and look forward to. Stiff upper lip and all that, and get across there. And then once we get up towards the top there, hopefully we'll find... I would think this is a fairly regular walked route, so I'm hoping that there's going to be a bit more of an established path that will enable us to pick up the Land Rover track that goes down to Glen Feshie. So it's 12:30 now. I'm going to put this away, strap everything down. The rain is definitely here for a while. It's certainly been raining all morning, and we'll head off and wade our way across this river. Wish us luck. Well, I don't know if anybody's ever come this way, and it's certainly a beast of a climb. We've made our way to the end of the loch, and thankfully the rain stopped. It was really tough going through the heather, really deep heather, roots that catch your feet and all this sort of stuff. And if you're looking at the map, we finally hit the path that rises up past and crosses the stream, and then the path stops dead on the map. And so we took it upon ourselves to climb parallel to the stream onto the plateau, which we did, keeping to the one side of the stream because it was running very, very fast indeed. Having got to the plateau, you're in this sort of basin, and there's only a couple of ways out really. I suppose you can either traverse the slope and scan round and head towards, in the direction of Angel's Peak, I suppose, Cairngorm Plateau, or the other way, which is like a grass slope which is greater than 45 degrees, and that's where we are at the moment. We're trying to do this climb, which I think must be about probably only a couple of hundred metres, but it's very, very steep, and I'm really glad I've got my poles, because it's a couple of times I've slipped. The weather's, the clouds still moving very, very quickly over the top of us, over the top of the plateau, but the valley's looking a lot brighter, and there has been some sunshine earlier on, but it's still very cold. Anyway, I thought I'd just do well, just had an excuse to stop, to be honest. I reckon about another 100 metres to go as a crow flies, but we're zigzagging our way up the slope and trying to make very slow but steady progress for safety reasons. But at least if we fall, although it's steep enough to fall, it's a fairly soft landing. Anyway, all being well, I'll do a bit later on. After all the huffing and puffing, we've made it to the top of that climb, and looking down it, I don't think I'd go down, but there's been a 500 metre climb and it's been right on the edge for me. What about you?
I think over the edge, Bob, for me.
Yeah.
But well worth it, well worth it. 500 metre climb was quite hard work, but to be honest, I'm surprised at my fitness really, considering I've not had an awful lot of hill climbing in between the last year's challenge.
Yeah. Well, it's not a straight route up. I mean, you've got to traverse and zigzag the way up, and a couple of times the poles went, and I thought, there's actually not an awful lot to stop us, although it seemed fairly soft underfoot. It's just moss-covered stone, isn't it?
Yes, I slipped a couple of times and feet went from under me, but luckily no harm done. But I'm pleased I didn't drop anything and have to go down and pick it up. yeah, definitely. One thing I didn't mention earlier on, which was a very strange sight, that just before we got to the loch, we actually saw some albino deers. What caught our eye first of all was a pure white one.
And then there was a small herd, whether that was the male or not, but there was, after that there was a white one and a sort of a doppled coloured one, but definitely more white than grey, and just the odd grey deer. That was a very unusual sight.
Very. I've never seen an albino deer at all, and I shouted to you, and to get your camera out, and luckily you've got some good shots of it, I hope.
Well, I hope so. It was pouring with rain at the time and very very cold, but no, it was very. It looked like Santa's reindeer, actually.
Yeah, that's right. Possibly it could, but I couldn't see anybody in red with a sack on his back. But there's time yet.
Yeah, well, there you go. All right. Well, I think I get. What do you get? I get 1,010.
Yeah, nearly there.
Yeah. Okay. So
a bit of difference.
Yeah. Well, the map says 1,100 for the peak, so we're just short of the peak now, but it's levelled off. So. Although the cloud base is definitely just ahead of us, we've got a little bit of visibility, but we shouldn't be too bad picking the path up down the other side. And we decided to camp now down by the bridge, which is still usable in Feshie. So it's 5k, was it, away from the old bridge?
Yeah, it's probably a little short of that, but yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
A running choice, really, to be honest.
Yeah. So we're going to cross over the river tomorrow, and then we'll continue on our way. Anyway, so a bit later on. Cheers now. Bye. The tents are finally set up now, down by Feshie Bridge. That's the bridge which is currently open, not the Feshie Bridge that got swept away in the storm. So we're a few miles away from Ruattichan Body. A tough day, very tough day. Both of us felt that it was actually pushing us to the limit as regards probably fitness in certain respects. With the steepness of that climb, which was very, very steep. I certainly, at the top, when I was looking down at it, I don't think I'd go down. I wouldn't venture down it, but we cautiously, step by step, zigzagged our way up and made it to the top. And once we were at the top, it wasn't very long, just a few k's before we picked up the track on the other side and made our way down to Glen Feshie. And we're actually just probably a kilometre further along from the abandoned house that Shirley stayed at on her TGO. It's a very pleasant evening in the sense that it's not raining and the wind's very, very mild. But it is obviously a weather that encourages mosquitoes and midges, and sadly they love me, so I'm sort of battling with them in the tent at the moment. A lot of people ask about camp routines, and we're all sort of different, although we're trying to achieve the same goal. Well, I'll talk about myself. What I tend to do is I tend to scout around trying to find the best pitch I can. I do that by lying down on the ground and feeling which way I'll actually be lying. In this particular case, it's fairly tufty sort of ground, but we're quite close to the bridge, and it sort of smooths out a bit. And I swiveled one way and then the other, and realised that to actually face the bridge with the door of the tent, I'd have to sleep the opposite way round in the tent that I have been doing. So it'll be interesting to see if that makes any difference to my habits. There's a mozzie in the tent. Get out, you devil. Get out, you little... So once the tent's up, the rucksack's unpacked and strewn into the tent in their various bags. They're all in sort of pretty well waterproof bags because the water cover of a rucksack is never reliable. I get the sleeping bag out and let that loft. Obviously get the Neo Air pumped up, which is what I'm lying on at the moment, and pretty well, as soon as I'm sort of in and settled, as it were, everything's unpacked, I do my feet, which we had to cross a stream river just before we got here, so they were lovely and dry, and then sadly had to get soaking wet again. So washed my feet down, put on the Gerwell refreshing balm, which is just a wonderful invention. I don't know what these Germans put in it, but it's another mozzie. Get out. But it's wonderful stuff, and it revitalises the feet and also makes them smell considerably nicer. That climb, actually, incidentally, Lee and I were both saying he was wearing the Innovate boots, the non-Gore-Tex version, and I was wearing Terox. I don't think I would have tackled that. In fact, neither of us would have tackled that slope in standard boots. The grip wasn't there. The Terox were just wonderful. There was only one moment where my foot just went from under me on a loose stone. But they've really gripped, and of course, because your ankle is allowed to flex, it made life a lot easier for actually going up such a steep slope. So they've really proved themselves. So once I've got my feet cleaned and refreshed and smelling a lot nicer, I get off my walking clothes have a wipe down if I can do with a wet wipe or something, and then get into my silk base layer. So I've got the silk body top and long johns, and I've got some silk body socks actually, which I've had for a while. And then over the top of that I put on my Montaigne wind trousers and my Rab generator smock, the new one, and I'm sitting here quite toasty with that. Oh, I'll just put on my beanie hat as well. And so once that's done, I'm feeling a bit more human. Then the food which has been reconstituting today has been one of my lovely favourite recipes that Rose does, which is a fisherman's pie. Which is fish and prawns and all sorts of lovely things. So I fired up the old titanium stove here, got it stable on some legs. Actually, these little legs have been invaluable since camping out on this particular trip. None of the ground has been particularly flat, and I'm just using a 100 gas cart at the moment, and the legs make it very, very stable. And obviously you're very, very hungry and you don't want to chuck your food on the floor. So I've added some water to the food, which I'd added some cold water to this morning, and it was semi-reconstituted. Brought it to the boil, simmered it for a bit, and then I popped it in a double pot cosy, which is a cosy which goes round the pot, and you put your pot into it, and then the lid is actually an inverted pot, if you like, that sits over the top of that as well. So that'll be double the insulation. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. That's been in for 14 minutes, so I should be taking it out as soon as I finish this. And I've got my packet of smash ready in my folding plate. So I'm ready to tip out. I'll probably reboil the water to get it up to boiling again, and then tip out the excess water into the smash to make the mashed potato, and then tip the whole lot into the bowl and sit here and really enjoy it. I've got a nice drop of whiskey in my GSI hip flask. I've got a block of chocolate, and I've got a few pieces of Scottish shortbread, which always tastes good with whiskey, and that tonight is my supper. And I must admit, at what time is it now? 7 o'clock. I'm bushed, and so's Lee. It's been although probably only about 12-13 miles, that climb's really taking it out of it, and the descent as well. So we're feeling quite tired and looking forward to getting our heads down and hopefully being refreshed during the night. So I shall bring this to a close now. That's been the end of day 2, or day 1, I suppose, it depends how you look at it, but the first proper day walking. He tells me it's an easy day tomorrow, but he did say it was an easy day today, so I'm a bit confused really. But I'm hoping that I shall be all fine, refreshed and ready to go, and have a good night's sleep. And I think there'll be nothing troubling me tonight when I try and sleep. So we'll pick this up tomorrow and fill any gaps in then. Right, good night everybody.
You're listening to the outdoorsStation.co.uk.
Bringing you more about the outdoors world.
Podcasts based solely around self-powered travel. If you walk, run, cycle, paddle, climb, explore or sail, we want to share your adventure, hear your highs and lows, and inspire others to go out and do more.
Good morning. It's a beautiful Monday morning. We've had very overcast skies the last 24 hours and a bit more, and a very cold rain and a bit of wind, but we're now down in the beautiful Glen Feshie. We've left the bridge about half an hour ago, and we're walking along the road down towards Ruattichan Bothy, and we're sort of heading past there, sort of on the right hand side. Where are we going today, Lee?
Heading up onto the Minigaig pass that will sort of take us to quite near Bruar Lodge, that is probably about 10 miles from Blair Atholl. So hopefully we'll find somewhere to camp just over the Minigaig and leave the rest of the trip for tomorrow.
Lovely, and then we should be in time for beer and chips when we get to Blair Atholl.
Definitely beer and chips at the Atholl Arms, I think it is. So I'm looking forward to that.
Now, you surprised me yesterday when you said that, because I need to get a new rucksack cover for my my bag. It's a bit on the small, tattered side. There's no camping shops or anything in Blair Atholl.
No camping shops whatsoever, unless you can get anything at the campsite. There's a good campsite there, rather expensive, but only a post office and little provisions shop and 2 hotels. I think that's about your lot.
Because I would have thought that with the outdoor lifestyle that there is up here, I mean, Aviemore swarming with outdoor shops, and yet everywhere else doesn't really seem to cater very much at all.
No, some of these little villages you'd expect to at least carry some spare essentials, but often you find you can't even get a can of gas.
That's strange, but I suppose it's a sign of the times in some respects. They're just cutting back and presuming people are coming up perhaps a bit better prepared than not, but it'd be a shame to lose the opportunity to make some money from the green pound, because I mean I certainly wouldn't mind spending a bit of money on a few bits and bobs while I'm up here.
No, I quite agree with you, but I do remember a few years back coming through Kinloch Leven, which the West Island Way runs through, and I couldn't get any gas there whatsoever from neither the little campsite or any of the shops, and I thought, I just couldn't believe that.
Yeah. Well, it's a fine day, as I say. The sun's coming and going, but it has been sunny for a few moments, which was a very refreshing feeling to feel some warmth on the face. But for people that know the Glen Feshie area, it is a super walk. I've walked it a couple of times in both directions, all the way down the glen, and it's a lovely day's walk. But we'll keep our fingers crossed the weather's on our side, and we'll probably make it to either the bottom or the top of the first climb for lunch, and then we'll catch up perhaps then, or maybe a bit later on. As you can probably hear, we've made it to the top of the first climb, and it's a little bit breezy, to the point that we're only just on our feet. We've got about 100 metre drop, and then another 200 metre climb to the highest point, and then we start to drop down. I'm not sure if you can hear this, but otherwise it's a lovely day. The nice enough weather that we had when we started, the first climb out of Glen Feshie was much higher than I remember, a good 500 metres just coming up the track, and we continued along the track now and made the first peak at 820 odd metres, I believe, and it's somewhat windy, as you can tell. It's not raining, thankfully, and the wind isn't too cold, but it is extremely breezy. So we just got to drop down another 100 metres, climb another 200 metres, and then we begin the long descent to Blair Atholl, but we'll stop short and camp tonight probably. I must apologise for the previous recording on the top of the pass there. It's very, very hard to see the controls, and especially in the conditions, and everything was very, very overloaded and distorted. But it was the wind that was causing most of the damage. We've finally settled down now at 5:30 and found a camping spot. We went over the Minigaig pass as Lee was explaining earlier on. And the weather was let's put it this way: it was really clear. It was a cold wind, but not freezing cold, bitterly cold if you like, but somewhere between the two. But the wind power just was blowing us off our feet, and it was a headwind all the way. So you can imagine the amount of effort it was taking to keep your head down, but at the same time keeping a good eye on where you were going, because when you get onto the plateau up there, it's very much like the monoliths in the sense that it's slightly undulating in all directions, and if you're not careful, you can get misled in the direction you're going, which we did at one stage, which was down to my navigating, but thankfully Lee had got it programmed in the GPS, so he managed to correct my mistake. As I sort of tried to describe, the climb out of Glen Feshie coming up there was considerably higher than I remember. Mind you, both times I've been down to Feshie, I've been going downhill, but I just didn't realise it was such a high climb. So even before we actually got up to the main paths, it was a fair trek this morning that we actually did. But it was enjoyable, as I say, because the weather, at least it wasn't raining. That was the main thing. But certainly when we hit the weather at the top, I would describe it as, well, it was very similar to that adventure race that Rose and I were in, which got on the news, that everybody was, 1,500 people were lost in the hills, and it was biblical proportions. It was exactly the same sort of weather without the horizontal rain and sleet, and the visibility was obviously good. So it gives you an idea of just how much hard work it was. Anyway, we eventually made it down into the glen, and we sort of bypassed the first potential camping spot, and it didn't seem to be that big, but it was actually tucked out of the wind, and in some respects I wish we'd taken it, because we've now walked a mile or so further down the glen and camped on a large bend with the river, but of course the glen is catching the wind, and the power lizard is going to be put to the test tonight. Although for my own peace of mind, I have actually pegged out the pegs with stones as a just in case, but I've got it nailed to the ground with the super thin titanium pegs, and I've double pegged it at the ends, so my neuroses is well catered for. And as it's early enough for a change, I'm going to have a proper supper tonight. I'm going to start with some minestrone soup. Then I'm going to move on to venison stew with mash, closely followed by some chocolate and shortbread with whiskey. And then I shall settle down and hopefully have a decent night's sleep. Haven't slept particularly well the last couple of nights, and leaves the same, so whether it's I don't know, the water, the weather, or just sort of getting into the swing of things again, it's one of those odd things that happens, but hopefully I'll get a good night's sleep at some stage and feel 100% refreshed. I could talk about gear and stuff, but I don't want to bore you. All I can say is I'm very, very grateful to crawl into my tent, pump up my Neo Air, get out my down sleeping bag to sort of loft and generally loll about in, refresh my feet with a good old Gerwal refreshing balm, slip on my silk underwear from Silk Body, slide on my, what have I got, Montaigne wind pants over the top, and the generator smock, and I feel, and I've got a nice beanie on as well, and you can imagine you just feel nice and comfortable now, and ready to enjoy the cooking. So that's what I'm going to do. If the wind settles a bit later on, I might try and dive over to Lee's tent, who's just across the way, and have his views on today. But like me, he was very, very grateful to get out of the big wind and just down to this, bit of a gust, really. So, hopefully, we'll catch you later. If not, I'll speak to you tomorrow. Bye for now. So, just a quick, brief review of today then, Lee, because the rain is obviously kicking in now, along with this wind that still doesn't seem to go away. I think it was a day that we could say that we're glad that God invented Pertex.
Most definitely. Really impressed with the Pertex. It held off probably what seemed like 100-mile-an-hour winds and kept us, really quite warm all day, didn't it?
Well, we both were wearing the light speeds, and I think it was the best thing we could have worn, actually.
Yeah, without doubt, because it's not been a cold day, so you didn't necessarily need your waterproofs on, but that just did the job.
Certainly the amount of noise the wind was making around my head, though, it was like being surrounded by 100 packet of crisps and nobody rustling them at the same time. It was a real racket, wasn't it? I couldn't hear you when you were standing next to me. No, that's probably a good thing in some respects.
That's without doubt a good thing. But no, it was rattling the hood and the little toggles on the hood and hitting my face at one time. It was hurting quite a lot, actually.
But a pleasant walk, though. So just for listeners' point of view, where are we now?
We're just near Bruar Lodge in, I presume it's Glen Bruar.
Oh, okay. Well, we saw some activity of people, I don't know whether they were stalking or whatever, but they went past and gave us a very friendly wave, which was nice of them, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right. They all seem very friendly. They, go out of the way to put the hand up, and they probably need to, because, we're sort of encroaching their territory.
We're on their garden, to be fair, aren't we, really? Right, well, the weather's getting worse, and I just want to do a quick update. I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks very much, and, that's an easy day tomorrow, then?
Definitely a lot easier day tomorrow. Yes, without
Can't be any harder than the last two. All right, mate. See you now.
Yeah, good night.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To hear more from our extensive free library, please visit the website at theoutdoorstation.co.uk.
You can now follow The Outdoor Station on Facebook, where we chat about each programme we produce, answer questions and discuss future productions. Why not join us there?
This podcast is produced and hosted by theoutdoorstation.co.uk.